pay close attention because the global economy just hit a massive brick wall, and the shockwaves are heading straight for the pockets of everyday people. Donald Trump just dropped an absolute bombshell on the European Union, and the numbers involved are so big, they are almost impossible to comprehend. $4.1 trillion. Let that sink in for a moment. $4.1 trillion. That is the jaw-dropping demand sitting on the table right now, and it has sent absolute panic through the halls of power in Brussels, Paris, and Berlin. From the very first second of this showdown, the message from Washington was crystal clear. The days of free rides and one-sided deals are officially over. The entire foundation of international trade is being ripped up and rewritten overnight. Trump is pointing directly at the massive trade pipeline between the United States and the rest of the world, specifically zeroing in on the European Union. He is looking at the staggering $4.1 trillion in global imports and saying, enough is enough. It is time for trading partners to pay up or face the ultimate financial penalty. This is not just another political headline. This is a high-stakes game of economic chess, and Trump just moved his queen right to the center of the board. For years, the United States has been running massive deficits while European markets got rich. But now the script is completely flipped. Trump is using that $4.1 trillion figure as a massive club, demanding that Europe completely level the playing field. If they refuse, he is threatening to slam the door shut on the biggest consumer market on the planet. Imagine the sheer chaos, millions of cars, massive amounts of steel, technology, and agriculture all suddenly hit with a massive wall of new taxes. This is a historic, unprecedented squeeze, and it happened in the blink of an eye. But if anyone thinks Europe is just going to roll over and surrender, they are dead wrong, because literally minutes after Trump laid down this earth-shattering $4.1 trillion gauntlet, Europe pushed back, and they pushed back hard. The European Union leadership did not even wait to catch their breath. They marched straight to the microphones and delivered a massive warning of their own, setting the stage for the most brutal trade war the modern world has ever seen. Brussels is absolutely furious. They are calling this pure tariff chaos. The European Commission came out swinging, flat out demanding that the United States honor the trade agreements they already signed. There was a massive, carefully negotiated deal that was supposed to keep the peace, but with Trump suddenly threatening to slap a brutal 15% tax on global goods, Europe is threatening to hit the pause button on absolutely everything. They are pointing to the incredible 1.7 trillion euros in daily trade and warning Washington that too can play this dangerous game. Europe is holding a massive weapon called the anti-coercion instrument, and they are not afraid to use it. If Trump moves forward with this massive tax on their goods, Europe is preparing to lock American companies completely out of their market. This means cutting off 450 million European consumers from American technology, American agriculture, and American energy. They are threatening to target iconic American brands, slamming them with massive retaliatory taxes that would cost United States businesses billions upon billions of dollars. The tension right now is completely off the charts. Neither side is blinking. Trump is sitting on one side of the ocean, holding the keys to the massive American consumer market, demanding respect and reciprocity. The European Union is on the other side, drawing a firm line in the sand and refusing to be bullied. This is a classic high-stakes standoff, and the winner will completely control the future of global wealth. The clock is ticking, the threats are flying, and the entire world is watching to see who takes the very first devastating shot. Brace yourselves, because the retaliation has officially begun, and absolutely no one is safe from the crossfire. The European Union is not just making empty threats in front of the cameras. They have a massive, carefully calculated hit list prepared, and they are aiming directly at the pride of the American economy. When the demand was made targeting that massive $4.1 trillion mountain of global trade. Europe immediately fired back by targeting the most iconic, famous American products on the planet. We are talking about legendary American motorcycles. We are talking about world famous blue jeans. We are talking about the bourbon whiskey that defines American culture. Europe is threatening to slap such massive crushing taxes on these items that they will become completely unaffordable to millions of buyers overnight. This is not an accident. This is a surgical, calculated strike designed to cause maximum political and financial pain right in the heartland of the United States. But the retaliation does not stop at motorcycles and whiskey. The European counterattack is designed to completely paralyze American farmers and massive technology giants, mountains of agricultural products from peanut butter to everyday crops are suddenly facing a giant brick wall at the European border. Billions upon billions of dollars in guaranteed sales are at risk of vanishing in a matter of days. The panic on the trading floors and in the global stock markets is absolutely real, and it is spreading like wildfire. Investors are watching this terrifying $4.1 trillion game of chicken, and they are rushing for the exits as fast as they can. Factories are freezing their production plans. Massive global businesses are hitting the ultimate panic button. When two economic superpowers clash like this, the collateral damage is instant and it is devastating. Every single massive cargo ship carrying goods across the Atlantic Ocean is now a tiny pawn in a global financial war that is spiraling completely out of control. Europe is sending a loud, uncompromising message. If a fortress of tariffs is built, Europe will build an even bigger fortress of its own, and they will make sure the biggest companies pay the ultimate price. If anyone thought this was just a political argument for the history books, think again. This $4.1 trillion explosion is coming directly for the wallet of every single everyday shopper. This is the part of the story that the politicians do not want to say out loud when massive taxes are slapped on trillions of dollars worth of goods. The massive companies do not just quietly swallow the loss. They pass every single penny of that new cost directly down to the consumer. This means the price tag on almost everything is about to skyrocket. We are looking at a massive, immediately price explosion on everyday electronics, family cars, clothing, and even the basic food on the dinner table. This brutal trade war is going to act like a giant vacuum, draining the money right out of the pockets of hardworking people before they even realize what hit them. The shockwaves of this massive standoff are already violently tearing through the global supply chain. This is no longer just a stubborn battle between Washington and Brussels. It is a full-blown global economic earthquake. Countries all over the map that rely on selling parts and materials to both the United States and Europe are suddenly caught in a devastating trap. If European car manufacturers cannot sell their vehicles in America without paying a massive penalty, they will immediately buy less steel, less rubber, and fewer computer chips from the rest of the world. The entire engine of global trade is grinding to a painful, screeching halt. Small businesses that rely on imported materials are staring down the barrel of bankruptcy, completely unable to afford the sudden, massive spike in costs. This $4.1 trillion demand has essentially thrown a giant wrench into the carefully balanced machine of global wealth. The era of cheap goods and easy global shipping is officially dead and buried. As the two biggest economies on Earth lock horns in this brutal, uncompromising fight to the finish, the rest of the world is left holding their breath, waiting for the devastating financial tsunami to wash over their own shores. The drama behind closed doors right now is absolutely deafening. While the public sees a fierce battle of massive numbers and angry press conferences, the reality inside the secret meeting rooms is pure, unadulterated panic. Politicians on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean are frantically working the phones, desperately trying to find a hidden exit strategy before this $4.1 trillion bomb completely detonates. Washington insiders are leaking reports of intense late-night shouting matches. Some advisors are pushing to double down, demanding even harsher, more brutal penalties to completely crack the European resolve. Others are begging for a massive step back, terrified that pushing Europe over the edge will drag the entire American economy down into a massive recession. It is a historic, high-stakes gamble, and the political survival of the most powerful leaders on earth is hanging entirely in the balance. Over in Europe, the massive, unbreakable unity they are showing the cameras is quietly starting to crack under the extreme, crushing pressure. The massive manufacturing powerhouses, the specific countries that rely heavily on exporting millions of luxury cars and high-tech machinery, are watching their future profits vanish into thin air. They are quietly demanding that Brussels find a massive compromise, and they want it fast. But other European nations, the ones less reliant on the American consumer market, are pushing for an absolute, uncompromising trade war. They want to make a historic, permanent example out of this massive tariff threat, proving once and for all that the European Union cannot be intimidated by anyone, not even the United States government. This massive internal tug of war is making a rapid, peaceful solution almost completely impossible. Both sides are currently trapped in a giant, incredibly dangerous staring contest, completely terrified that blinking first will be seen as a massive, humiliating surrender on the global stage. The pressure cooker is rapidly reaching its absolute boiling point, and a massive, world-altering explosion of financial consequences is only days, maybe even hours away. Make no mistake, the rest of the world is not just sitting on the sidelines watching this chaos unfold. They are actively circling like sharks in the water, waiting to tear into the massive leftovers of this historic economic clash. When the United States and Europe lock horns in a brutal battle over $4.1 trillion, massive global rivals are quietly celebrating in the shadows. This is the exact moment they have been waiting for. With Western powers completely distracted and fiercely destroying their own historic trade networks, the door is kicked wide open for new economic empires to completely take over. Asian markets are already making massive moves, swooping in to offer cheaper goods and brand new trade deals to nations desperate to escape the devastating crossfire. The massive global power structure is literally shifting right beneath the surface, and the long-term damage to Western financial dominance could be absolutely irreversible. If this massive wall of tariffs becomes permanent reality, the entire concept of the mighty US dollar and the euro as the undisputed kings of global wealth is in massive jeopardy. The world is looking at a terrifying scenario where massive global supply chains are permanently ripped apart and rebuilt completely from scratch. Companies are already drawing up emergency blueprints to move their massive factories out of the line of fire. The incredible era of everything being manufactured just in time and shipped effortlessly across the ocean is collapsing in real time. The world is rapidly entering a massive new age of deep economic isolation, where massive walls and brutal taxes replace open borders and free trade. The sheer scale of this $4.1 trillion demand has essentially broken the absolute trust that held the massive global economy together for decades. The brutal reality is finally setting in. This is not just a temporary dispute over shipping containers and taxes. This is a massive, permanent rewiring of how the entire world makes, buys, and sells absolutely everything. And the fallout will be felt for generations. So where does this massive, earth-shattering story go from here? The entire global economy is currently standing on the absolute edge of a massive, terrifying cliff. The $4.1 trillion question is no longer just about who pays what tax on a shipping container. It is about who will completely control the financial destiny of the 21st century. The United States has thrown down the most aggressive, uncompromising financial challenge in modern history, demanding a complete and total reset of global wealth. Europe has answered with a massive, unbreakable wall of defiance, ready to burn down the entire trading system before surrendering a single inch. There is absolutely no middle ground left. The diplomats have failed. The negotiators are completely out of ideas. All that remains is the cold, hard reality of two massive economic titans speeding directly toward a catastrophic head-on collision. In the coming days, the entire world will witness a massive chain reaction that cannot be stopped. Every time everyday shoppers walk into a grocery store, every time families look at a car lot, every time workers check a retirement account, the brutal consequences of this massive showdown will be front and center. The massive corporations are making final preparations for a historic financial war. The global stock markets are holding a collective breath, bracing for a massive, unprecedented crash that could wipe out trillions of dollars in a matter of seconds. Will Washington finally realize the massive stakes and pull back from the brink of total destruction, or will Europe launch a massive arsenal of retaliatory taxes, plunging the entire planet into a deep, inescapable economic winter? The history books are being written right this very second, and the next chapter is going to be absolutely brutal. The massive era of the global free market is officially taking a last dying breath. A brand new, terrifying age of massive tariffs, closed borders, and fierce financial warfare has completely taken over. The absolute biggest economic shockwave of modern history has just been triggered. The $4.1 trillion countdown has officially hit zero, and the financial world will absolutely never be the same again.